I was thinking the first of the week, why are mergers so difficult? Why is it so difficult to merge? And goodness knows the church could use a few of those, more of them in fact. I've been involved in one church merger that many years ago that went pretty well. But when our home church was invited to merge with the two sister churches on the charge to form one new church, it was a disaster. You know, there are some reasons why mergers fail. The lack of due diligence in researching one another, poor communications, governance, and the lack of shared vision are a few of the problems that lead to failure. Perhaps the biggest reason, though, is the inability to merge two different cultures into one new and cohesive culture. When folks get used to doing things one way, it's hard to do things another way. Even in the United Methodist Church, different congregations have different cultures, ways of doing things. You think, well, every church worships just like my church does. Well, you get your eyes open if you start traveling around the annual conference to different United Methodist churches, let alone our brothers and sisters in the Lutheran and the Presbyterian and whatever else out here. And you know, when one church's goals and culture overshadow the other, it's little wonder that one of the partners feels slighted. You know, it's hard to move forward when one side feels undervalued. The best mergers, on the other hand, do the relational math differently. In a bad merger, 1 plus 1 often equals a sum of two different cultures in conflict with each other, or perhaps even worse. The sum of 1 plus 1 equals 1.5, where one of the partners is devalued and treated as an unequal. The best merger math is 1 plus 1 equals 3. A brand new culture emerges that takes the value of both and adds to it. Both partners leave behind the things that divide them and invent something completely different that adds value to everyone. Church mergers can be exhausting, and they will require a high level of energy and a thick skin. Jesus was a master at this kind of relational math when it comes to acquiring partners for his kingdom and for his kingdom business venture and merging them together into one church. He gathered 12 men, all with different desires, expectations, cultures, and he formed them into a group of disciples with a common mission and a new culture. And as he prepared to depart from them, he prayed that they and all of those in the future who would believe in him through their word, he prayed that they would be one. And the model of their new and our new church culture is found within the very nature of God revealed in the Trinity. Jesus prayed, as Donna shared with us, as you, Father, in me, and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent. In chapter 14, of John, Jesus has already revealed the person of the Holy Spirit that will come upon the disciples. And the Trinity functions then as the perfect corporate culture where the math looks like this. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 1. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, God's self. And Jesus prayed that his disciples, past, present, and future, would reflect this equation in their corporate faith and work, so that the mission of reaching the world with the good news would pass from Jesus to them unabated. Unabated. Unfortunately, the culture change has been slow in coming for Jesus' followers in years since. Despite denominational mergers and calls for unity, the church often acts like its different cultures are sacred cows that require constant care and feeding, with separate visions of what Jesus would have those in the church to do and be. The divisions of liberal and conservative, high church and low church, Eastern and Western, Protestant and Catholic, individual gospel and social gospel, and even traditional and contemporary, have done precisely the opposite of what Jesus intended and prayed for us. Rather than causing the world to believe that God sent Jesus for his salvation, we have instead caused the world to see the division of the church as evidence that there's good news out there somewhere and won't be found in the church. I want you to hear it again. Rather than causing the world to believe that God sent Jesus for its salvation, we, the church, have instead caused the world to see the divisions in the church as evidence that there is good news out there. If there's good news out there somewhere, it won't be found in the church. We are our own worst enemies. We have searched for the enemy and we have found him, and it is us. You and I. We've had far more spin-offs and breakups than we had mergers and acquisitions. And the unifying message of Jesus gets lost as churches and denominations are more apt to argue and to leave one another than to work to restore a vision of life together. When churches and individuals drift from a core belief in Jesus being one with the Father, and fail to act on that belief, unity will be elusive. In many cases, however, it's the minor differences that keep us from being truly one. We are quick to defend our positions on points of doctrine and practice. The relationship between Jesus and the Father reveals that it's the posture of the Father toward him. And of Jesus toward the Father, it's the posture that provides the model for Jesus' followers. It's about posture and not position. It's the posture, Jesus says, of glorification and love. He says, the glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they they may be one as we are one. Glory is a major theme in John's Gospel. And here Jesus uses it to describe both what he has received from the Father and what he has given to his disciples. It's a reflected glory, an angled mirror that reflects God's love to the world through Jesus to us and through us to the world, which in return reflects glory back to God. We are never about the business of glorifying ourselves, our churches, our doctrines, or our positions. But we are called to be a community that always reflects God's glory revealed in Jesus. When the disparate corporate entities that make up the body of Christ begin to focus on that glory, the path to unity and true merger becomes clear. And how is that glory best revealed? It's made known through our love for God and one another. I've made known your name to them, Jesus says, and I will make it known, so that the love with which you have loved me may be in them and I in them. And this is akin to what Jesus says in John 15:12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Notice the chain of love. The Father gives his love to Jesus. Jesus gives it to us. And then we give it to one another. Love isn't something, folks, that we conjure up within ourselves. It's a gift given to us, and it's to be passed on to someone else. We reveal the love glory of God when we love one another in the way that Jesus loved us. Love in spite of our sin. Love regardless of our positions. And love with little heed paid to the minor differences in doctrine and practice. Jesus invites us to form a new culture, centered on reflecting the glory of God through our love for God and for one another.